The Federation Guard, both looking equally as magnificent. I'm sure you'll agree, Georgina.
Absolutely. I always enjoy watching both the Guard and the Royal Military College of Duntroon Band. Today, the band is under the musical direction of Officer Commanding Major Matthew O'Keefe, and the drum major is Warrant Officer Class 1 Mick Lee.
And what a splendid, clear, sunny morning we have here. Partly cloudy conditions, expecting a top of 32, and just light winds becoming northwesterly. And of course, Ron Terrace is part of the Parliament House vista within the National Triangle, and this location on the foreshore of Lake Burlington really is the centrepiece of citizenship ceremonies held on Australia Day.
This area was originally designed as the parade ground for military events, so you're right, it is the perfect location for ceremonies like this. Today we can see 98 members of the Australian Federation Guard on parade.
And I can imagine they must be feeling very proud. Today they're under the command of Squadron Leader Mitchell Brown. And a career highlight for Mitchell was marching in the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in London. Mitchell led the Commonwealth nations as they marched through London in May last year.
That's right, Adrienne. The Guard Commander, along with members of the Federation Guard, had the privilege of being chosen for ceremonial duties during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Some members of the Australia's Federation Guard were selected as part of the Guard of Honour that lined the steps of St Paul's Cathedral for the service of Thanksgiving for the Queen, commemorating her milestone achievements. That particular Guard of Honour was made up of service personnel from all Commonwealth nations.
And Mitchell was also the Guard Commander for the King's Proclamation Guard held at the Parliament House forecourt last year.
Second in command of the Federation Guard is Captain Harry Tibbon, who he considers taking a tri-service team to the Gallipoli Peninsula in 2022 as the highlight of his career to date. You can imagine what an honour that must have been for him.
Australia's Federation Guard is the only full-time ceremonial unit in the ADF, with members posted in from across all units in the Australian Defence Force. It was established in 2000 to support celebrations for the Olympic Games and 2001 centenary of Federation events. As a tri-service unit, the Guard is made up of 166 ADF personnel, comprised of 55 Navy, 56 Army and 55 Air Force.
A very balanced Guard indeed. The Guard is responsible for providing ceremonial support to the ADF and the Australian Government, and routinely provides support to ceremonial parades across the world, including during Anzac Day ceremonies in Australia, Europe and Asia. The most common selection process for the Guard is through volunteering of expressions of interest, and posting duration for Guard members is usually around 2 to 3 years. We can go a little bit more.
We still have a lot to look forward to this morning. Soon Prime Minister, the Honourable Anthony Albanese, will arrive, along with His Excellency, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, General the Honourable David Hurley.
It is truly an emotional day for many of us in attendance, especially for the soon-to-be citizens who have chosen to make Australia their home.
And this is just one of many citizenship events happening all across the country today. More than 5.7 million people have become citizens since Australian citizenship was introduced in 1949. And I'm going to guess, Georgina, that some of those people are watching right now on either the ABC, ABC Australia or ABC iView.
Oh, I begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the elders of this land and right across this nation for their care of country, culture and stories, and their generosity in sharing them with all Australians. Australia Day is a day for Australians to come together to reflect, respect and to celebrate. We reflect on our nation's history, which began tens of thousands of years ago, and on the impact of European settlement on the first Australians. We respect the first Australians' extensive knowledge of land, sea and sky, which allowed them to care for country as they would a family member. We reflect on our modern history, the waves of immigration that have shaped us into the wonderfully diverse nation and multicultural nation that we are today. We reflect on the courage and on the tenacity of the Australians who lived through record floods, storms and other disasters throughout this year, and the selfless sacrifice made by thousands of emergency workers and volunteers who put the safety and well-being of others before their own to support their communities. We celebrate our strength and we celebrate our resilience. And above all, we celebrate our unity. We celebrate each other because we're all part of the story. Soon the Prime Minister and the Governor-General will join us. It's now my great pleasure to welcome the Chair of the National Australia Day Council, Ms Danielle Roach OAM, and local Ngunnawal Elder Auntie Violet Sheridan, who will together greet the Prime Minister, the Honourable Anthony Albanese and Ms Jodie Hayden. Please stand if you're able for the arrival of the Prime Minister and Miss Hayden.
And we're seeing the arrival now of the Prime Minister's car.
I'm sure we have a number of nervous people on parade today, being their first formal parade since they posted into the Guard and the band.
The Prime Minister will now be received on parade with a general salute.
General salute! Please stand up!
Please welcome the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Anthony Albanese and Miss Jodie Hayden. Please remain standing for the arrival of Their Excellencies, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, General the Honourable David Hurley and Mrs Linda Hurley.
And now the Governor-General arrives. This is his fourth time attending the National Citizenship and Flag-raising ceremony, and his first as the King's representative, having previously represented the Queen.
The Governor-General will now be received with the Vice-Regal salute, during which personnel in uniform are to salute and gentlemen are reminded to please remove your headdress.
Australia's Federation Guard, Royal Salute, Reserve up! Thank you.
Please be seated as the Guard Commander, Squadron Leader Mitchell Brown invites the Governor-General to inspect Australia's Federation Guard and the band of the Royal Military College, Duntroon.
Sorry, I'm coming there to sit soon. That's my seat.
Squadron Leader Mitchell Brown will now escort the Governor-General to inspect the Guard, which is an honour bestowed upon anyone considered to be a reviewing officer. In this case, the reviewing officer is the Governor-General, but they could also be the PM, a visiting head of state, a senior military officer, or even a mayor.
Once the reviewing officer receives a general or a national or a royal salute in the form of presenting arms, it shows to the person that the Guard means no harm. Then, as an act of goodwill, the Guard Commander invites that person to inspect the Guard, as the Governor-General is doing right now.
They've represented Australia in various roles, both at home and overseas, including ceremonies in Gallipoli in Turkey. The Royal Australian Navy contingent of the Guard always appears on the left-hand side of a parade, with the Army in the centre and the Air Force on the right.
I think there's a degree of excitement right now amongst many members of the Guard. This may be the first time, in fact, they've been on parade with senior leadership like the Governor-General and the Prime Minister, for example, in attendance.
And Georgina, aren't we fortunate to have such mild conditions here this morning with that beautiful light breeze, compared to last year that was extremely warm and humid?
There will be a sigh of relief from all 98 members of the Guard and the Royal Military College of Duntroon Band, dressed in their finery. It's always great when the temperature will accommodate that.
Now Squadron Leader Mitchell Brown will hand over to Major Matthew O'Keefe to inspect the band of the Royal Military College, Duntroon.
Major Matthew O'Keefe is the Officer Commanding and Music Director of RMC's band. And this is not the first time him being as part of this particular ensemble. It's where he started his career as a musician in this band 18 years ago, and where he served as second of command in 2015 and 2016.
That's right, Georgina. Major O'Keefe says it's a great honour and a privilege to command the band of the Royal Military College, the flagship ensemble of the Australian Army Band, and to work with such dedicated and professional group of soldiers and musicians.
Later this year, Major O'Keefe will perform the duties of music director for the Anzac Day service in France at Villers-Bretonneux. There he will lead members of the Australian Army Band in the musical support for the significant overseas commemoration.
Please welcome their Excellencies, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley and Mrs Hurley. We now come to a very special part of the citizenship and flag raising ceremony. It's a pleasure to introduce Ngunnawal Elder Auntie Violet Sheridan of the people of the Ngunnawal Nation for the welcome to country.
Well, it is my pleasure once again to be here to welcome you to beautiful Ngunnawal country. If you take a look around for our visitors, do you know you're in the best city in Australia? Let me tell you, So I want to welcome you once again to the land of the Ngunnawal people. You're probably saying to yourself, well, what has she got a feather on her head for? Well, this is a very special feather to me. It's a feather of my token. It was given to me by my sister for my birthday this year, and I treasure it, and it's really special to me. It is the feather from the mullion, the wedge-tailed eagle, who is my sacred bird, is the protector of this land that you are meeting on today, the wedge-tailed eagle. So I stand in this place where once my ancestors before me, my great-great-grandfather, they call King Andy Lane, his son, Albert Lane, my grandmother, his daughter, Albert's daughter, Amelia, where my life began. And I tell that to my grannies. My great-great-grandfather, King Andy, was a really proud Ngunnawal elder. And I welcome you on behalf of my family and the other Ngunnawal families. I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister of Australia, His Excellency General, the Honourable David Earley and Mrs Earley, Danny Roach, Chair of the Australia Day Council, members of the Diplomatic Corps, new Australian citizens, distinguished guests, and Australians of the Year. I believe a welcome to country is a traditional Aboriginal blessing, symbolising that the traditional owners of the land welcome you, but it also shows respect for the first peoples of the land you are meeting on. I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to First Nations people here today and around Australia. I'd also like to acknowledge all the non-Indigenous people here today and around Australia. In keeping in the general spirit of friendship and reconciliation, it gives me great pleasure once again, on behalf of Uncle Warren, if we walk through the smoking ceremony, other Ngunnawal people here today, myself, Ngunnawal families, my family, I say once again, welcome you. And while you're here, if you're a visitor, take the time to have a look around beautiful Ngunnawal country, because you don't know how lucky we are to survive. But before I go, I've got one more thing to say. You haven't got rid of me that quick. I've been told 4 minutes, but we talk about the voice. I'm talking about the voice. We need to take a look at ourselves and make change for the future. I've got great-grandchildren. You probably have great-grandchildren in the future. We need to come together as one people and celebrate this day together instead of it's us and them. Because I want to make a difference. I want you to make a difference for our future, as we are all Australians. I'm a proud Ngunnawal Aboriginal woman, but I'm also a proud Australian. So I want us to come together. So when we go to the vote, and the Prime Minister said maybe in August, please support us and vote yes. If you don't know about it, take the time to learn about it. God bless and have a great day.
Thank you, Auntie Violet, for welcoming us and sharing with us some of your story. It's so powerful the way that you welcome us and bring us in to that story. Thank you so much. It's now time for the flag raising part of the ceremony, and today for the first time we'll raise a record 6 flags, 2 national Australian flags, 2 Aboriginal flags and 2 Torres Strait Islander flags. This year we have 36 volunteer flag bearers who will usher the flags to their positions ready to be raised. And I'm delighted that proud Ngunnawal singer and songwriter Alinta Barlow will be joined by the Luminescence Children's Choir to sing the national anthem for us today. After the national anthem, Alinta and the choir will sing the first verse of Advance Australia Fair in the local Ngunnawal language. After the performance, we'll have the privilege of another spectacular salute to our Australian national flag. An MH-60R Sea Hawk piloted by Lieutenants Dylan Hush and Christopher Spragg will make a flypast thanks to the Royal Australian Navy. But first, please give our flag bearers, Alinta Barlow and the Luminescence Children's Choir, a warm round of applause.
As Dan mentioned, raising 6 flags is a record for the National Citizenship and Flag Raising Ceremony. Today, the 2 Australian national flags are being walked on by a group of 6 Australians of the Year, local hero and alumni, celebrating 20 years of the Local Hero Award, plus 6 St John's Ambulance volunteers who represent our vital emergency services personnel. Of course, the 2022 Senior Australian of the Year, the wonderful Val Dempsey, is one of St John's longest serving volunteers, giving more than 50 years of service to the organisation.
The 2 Aboriginal and 2 Torres Strait Islander flags are being walked on by members of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities from all corners of our nation. We're very lucky to have these wonderful flag bearers here to help with this part of today's proceedings. The Aboriginal flag was first raised on the 9th of July 1971 in Adelaide at a land rights rally, and the flag itself was designed and created by artist Harold Thomas, who is a Luritja man from Central Australia and a member of the Stolen Generations. Both the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flags have been legally recognised as flags of Australia since 1995.
And there's so much symbolic meaning behind both the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flags too. The Torres Strait Islander flag was designed by the late Bernard Nammock of Thursday Island, and it symbolises the unity and identity of all Torres Strait Islanders. The green stripes represent the land, the black stripes represent the people, and the blue represent the sea. The flag's central motif is a white ceremonial headdress called a dari, which is a symbol of Torres Strait Islanders, and the white 5-point star beneath it symbolises peace, the 5 major island groups, and the navigational importance of stars to the seafaring people of the Torres Straits.
The designer of the Aboriginal flag, Harold Thomas, says the colours of that flag represent the Aboriginal people of Australia and their spiritual connection to the land.
Please stand if you're able for the raising of the flags and the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is blessed by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page